What three words best describe your childhood?
Family is one. Uh, um, Happiness, fun.
That's great. Then that was a great childhood, right?
It was.
Okay. So, bouncing ahead, how did you meet Klaus? Walk me through that. When was the first time you met him?
Okay, well, my friend Bonnie Maharam had a boyfriend, Donnie, and he had a car. And so Bonnie and Donnie joined a beach club called Malibu. That was out on Long Island, it was Atlantic Beach, near Long Beach. And she asked me whether I would like to join the club as well, and there'll be some other gals, and we all get a cabana together. And since Donnie had a car, he could drive us out to the beach. So I had to, they, Johnny and Bonnie were not engaged at that time. They were just going together. And they both lived in Forest Hills. So I lived in Jackson Heights. So I took the subway from Jackson Heights to Forest Hills, got off the subway, and then got into Donnie's car with Bonnie, convertible, and we drove out to Malibu Beach Club. And at the Malibu Beach Club, um, I was walking around, and I was walking around with a girlfriend, and she stopped by at a cabana, and there were a whole bunch of guys, and she knew some guys, and so I stopped with her, and there was a guy who was lounging on one of the lounges, and it turned out that it was Klaus. So we started a conversation, and I didn't think anything of it, and then later on, I went up looking around to get some food, and I saw Klaus eating at the table by himself. And I said hi, and he said hi. And I was looking at. He had a really fruit salad, really looked good. And I was getting hungry, and I kept looking at the fruit salad. and he was looking at me, looking at the fruit salad. So he said, "Do you want a bite?" I said, "Yeah, that would be a nice idea." He was horrified. He really didn't want to give me a bite. He never liked to share his things. So anyhow, that's how I met Klaus. Yeah.
So, backing up just a bit, how long had you been friends with Bonnie Maharam?
Oh, we met at Catherine Gibbs.
Okay.
She was, yeah. She and I went to Catherine Gibbs together. I knew her for about a year before we went to the beach. Yeah.
And was this the first time you'd gone to the beach club?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The Malibu Beach Club was really like a meat market. It was a place where young people went and they made out, and it made out meaning they just met. You know, black music was the rage in those days, and there was this band named Pupi Campo who played these wonderful Latin songs, and it was blaring, and it was blaring all over the place. And if there were two people who really didn't belong in that club, that was Klaus Pappenheimer and me. But we were there, and I guess that's when we hooked up. But I had been going out with another guy, his name was Buddy, and Buddy was a wonderful dancer. That's another thing Klaus was not. But at any rate, then I don't know. When Buddy and I broke up, when I was talking to Klaus, and I really was not looking for a job, but sometimes you say you're looking for a job, and just to get the conversation rolling. And he said, well, I'll give you my card, and if you decide that you're looking for a job, give me a call. So actually, the end of the summer, then that's when Buddy and I broke up. And I thought, gee whiz, maybe I'll give that guy Klaus a call. He seemed like a nice guy. So I gave him a call. And I wasn't looking for a job, but I said to him, do you remember me from Malibu? He said, well, I think so. He sure did remember me. The woman, the girl who ate half of his fruit salad. So I said, well, I'm looking for a job. And he said, well, I might have something in mind for you. So just wait a minute. I'll make some telephone calls. So he came back. That was then in the afternoon. He called me back, and he said, "So far, I haven't had that much luck, but it just so happens that I've got tickets for a show on Broadway, and I don't know. Would you like? I can't get rid of the tickets. Would you like to come?" So I said, "Oh, that's nice. Well, when is this?" He said, "Well, Saturday night, or for Saturday." So I said, "Oh, that's my birthday." So he said, "Well, okay." So I said, "Fine, you know." And then he called for me. He came to the house. I introduced him to parents, very nice. And we went out. But we went out, this was our first date, mind you. We went out for dinner. I think it was in the village. Then we went to see the show. It was with Claude Rains. I forgot the name of it. And then we went to a little nightclub afterwards. I mean, this was our first date, and this was really pretty nice. So anyhow, he was a nice guy. He was really lovely guy, and we dated after that. So that's how I met Klaus.
So when you called him, were you hoping he would ask you out?
I don't know what I was hoping. You know what? I really don't know. I wasn't looking. I wasn't seriously looking for anybody. My grandmother was looking for me, but she had started when I was 16. She felt that I should start looking for somebody to get married to at the age of 16. I wasn't look. I don't know what I was doing. Just I guess I maybe it was fate. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
I, I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
It was not planned at all.
So after the first date, were there feelings between you
Oh
two?
yeah, I liked it. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. I liked it, and that was in April, and because that was my birthday, and we started going out, and we started really seeing each other, and then in September, he said, "Do you want to go around Manhattan on the Vine?" He said, "It's a beautiful day." And he said, "You want to do that?" And I said, "Yeah, that would be great. That would be fun." So we went around, we were on the boat, and there was this like island and filled with these old cars and junk. It was like a place where they just dumped junk. It was in the river. It was in the river. And he said to me, "If you marry me, I'll get you a house right here where all the junk was." That was it. He proposed. And then we started talking. I said yes. By that time, I really did like him. And I thought, oh, this is great.
So
But it was really cute because he said, "I'll get you a house right here." It was a junkyard.
so after the first date, how soon and how frequent did you guys go out after that? Like,
Oh, we went out maybe once a week.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what would you do on your dates?
We went to restaurants. We went to movies. I think we saw more plays. I was in a play also. I was the amateur theatrics, and I had invited him to see me in this play, and he came, and of course, I was nervous. There was no Rudy around to save me. What if I forgot my lines? But I didn't, for some strange reason. I did forget my lines, and I thought it was really a good play. And he came backstage afterwards, and I said to him, "What did you think? What did you think?" He said it was the most awful play I have ever seen. And he said, and I said, well, how about me? He said, you were awful. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? He said that to me. But I tell you, I think it was then that I really realized I really love this guy because he told the truth.
Yeah.
He didn't try to say, oh, you were great, and I wasn't great. So, it really showed to me that this was somebody who I could rely on. I really felt that way. I was upset, but yet, on the other hand, I thought, boy, this is the real thing. So,
Yeah, because a lot of women might be offended at that moment.
no,
You took it a different way.
Well, I was. I was, and especially after he did say another thing, and I was very offended after he said something else. He said, "Ooh, you've got a mustache." So this was before we went on the circle line.
When was the first time you introduced Klaus to your parents and Michael?
Michael wasn't home. Michael was away.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think he came to call for me. Really, the first time we went out, he came to call for me. Oh, and then I know what else we did. But then another time we went to play tennis, but he came. It was I don't know. This must have been a nice day. Anyhow, he wore his tennis shorts and also a Harris tweed heavy jacket.
Hmm.
And my mother looked at me and I looked at her, and she said, I've seen that he's wore that jacket before. Does he go to bed in it? Does he sleep in it all the time? Why is he wearing it over his shorts? I said, I don't know. So we went out, we played tennis, and of course, I hardly knew how to play. And I just thought if you look good on the court, you could play tennis. And I thought that I had only played tennis twice before. And he was giving me those backhands and those shots. And I said, this is not the way you play tennis. To play tennis, you have to hit it up, and it goes way up, and then it goes over the net. I had a lot to learn. So at one point, when he came in to call for me, but both parents were there, and then after he left, I said, well, what do you think of him? And my father said, he's a nice guy. And my mother was thrilled. She thought he was great. So that was, so I got there okay.
Yeah. And what did Klaus think of them?
Well, my mother had given him that banana cake. She said to him, I made this banana cake for you, Klaus. And she said, so we sat down and had some coffee and cake. And he was chewing it. And she said, well, do you like it? He said, well, it's very dry.
Oh, Klaus never held back.
And I still married him.
Yeah.
After all of that insulting me, insulting my mother.
That shows how strong your attraction was.
That's right. Now, I can't remember, so don't forget that he had to introduce me to his family.
And how did that go?
His family was his mother had died in the United States when he was about 20 years old. And so his father was alone for many years, and then he had a lady friend. And Klaus also had a sister, Ellen. She and her husband and 3 kids lived up in Scarsdale. So Klaus wanted to introduce me to that was his family. So we went up to Scarsdale, and Ellen, I know, was nervous about meeting me. I don't know why she was, and she wanted to be really casual. She didn't want it to be stiff and formal. But she was very shy. She was very aggressive, but she's shy basically. She was wearing what I thought looked like a little bathing suit. I couldn't believe it. I said, anyhow,
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's strange. Here I am coming up, and I was wearing a nice dress. I wanted to make a nice impression. So it was a little strange.
Were you intimidated by them, or?
No, I
Yeah.
wasn't. I wasn't. But I was meeting his family. They were German. They were German Jews, which they were very different than American Jews. They were more formal, and the kids were adorable. Ronald was 2 years old, and he was really beautiful boy. And Madeline was adorable, and Monica was really great. She was so curious. She kept looking at me and looking at me, and the others were. I mean, Madeline was told, behave yourself. So Madeline was kind of shy in the corner, but Monica was always very feisty. But it was the kids were really adorable, and his father didn't say anything. The father's girlfriend didn't say much. And then I remember Tante Hedvig was there, and Bob Ferber was there. So there was a big crew, and actually Bob, he talked a lot, so that was good. It was okay. So we left, after we left, and then Klaus and I went to a restaurant. Klaus was nervous. We went to a restaurant, and he said, I'll be right back, He went to make a telephone call to Ellen to make sure that she liked me.
Oh.
Because I don't know what would have happened if she had said, no, I don't like her.
Yeah.
I don't know. At any rate, he came back and he said, she liked you. And I got mad. I got mad at that point.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's nice. That's nice of her. It was as though he was so relieved that I had passed the test in front of Ellen. But then that bugged me. I really didn't like that much. So I said, well, good for her, or bully for her, something like that. And he didn't pay any attention to me. He was just so thrilled that I had passed. Because, I don't know what he would have done.
Yeah.
I asked him over the years. He said, I don't know. He doesn't know what he would have done if she had said no.
Right.
He would have married me anyhow.
Yeah. So you think even if she had said no, he would have continued?
Yeah, I think so.
Just switch gears for a second. How important was Judaism to you at this point in your life?
It really wasn't. I was never bat mitzvah. We had joined a temple. I knew I was Jewish. I was proud that I was Jewish, never ashamed that I was Jewish. But Judaism really, we celebrated the holidays, Passover, Hanukkah to a certain extent. I didn't have only Jewish friends. My parents never, we didn't go to temple on Friday nights. So it wasn't really a big part of my life. And it wasn't a big part of Klaus's life because the German Jews, for the most part, were very assimilated when they were in Germany. And he was not religious either.
And while you were dating, did you guys talk politics ever?
Oh yeah. We talked lots about politics, lots about growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He told me all about his uncles and, the fun that he had when he was younger in Berlin. Talked about his friends, talked about books, talked about movies. We love the movies, So there's always a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Always a lot. Talk about skiing, which I didn't do. I had gone skiing once and vowed never to ski again. And then, of course, on our honeymoon, we went skiing.
What movies do you remember seeing with Klaus that really stand out at that time?
I don't want to tell you. Yes.
So, yeah, R-rated or X-rated?
I don't remember them. I don't remember them.
But was that the first movie like that you went to? I'm assuming.
But they were starting to show those movies, so we didn't go them all the time. We saw one, and I was afraid that somebody I know would be in the movie house. So we're engaged in September,
Hmm.
but then we're married in November, all the same year.
So on that Circle Line tour, I remember Klaus saying that Michael was on there. Why did you have to take Michael?
Well, because Michael was home, and my mother thought that she had no idea that Klaus was going to ask me to marry him.
Yeah.
She thought that we should take him along. That it would be nice for him to go on the ship with us on a boat. She thought it would be a nice idea. So we didn't think it was a nice idea. So we went on this Circle Line, and Michael, just hung around. And Klaus wanted to ask me to marry him, but not with Michael there.
Sure.
So he would say to Michael, "Here, Michael, go downstairs and get yourself a Frankfurter or an." And then Michael would get it, and then he'd come right up and stand with us. So it was never the right time for Klaus to propose. But finally, by the end of this trip, Michael was green because he had eaten so many Frankfurters. He had just poor thing, poor thing. And so, but at any rate, he must have been gone at the right time because all that junk, with that junk pile there.
Yeah. Did Klaus get on his knee?
No.
No.
I don't remember that.
Do you remember how he phrased it?
If you marry me, I will buy you a house right here on this island with all the junk piled on it.
Okay, so met in April and
First date in April, engaged in September, and
then
married in November 22nd.
And where did you get married?
We got married at the Forest Hills Inn. They had an inn. It was very nice. Very small wedding, just the immediate family. I had a friend, Jane Oliver, who I invited. She was a friend that I worked with at MCA, and we had become really good friends. And Klaus had a cousin, Margaret Lowe, and Margaret's husband, Ken. So it's really only my grandmother. About 50 people were there. And I was wearing my cousin Cookie's wedding dress. I had borrowed that from her. And there was some dancing afterwards. It wasn't one of these great weddings. It was small. But then after that, we went to Atlantic City because it was Thanksgiving. It was the Thanksgiving Day that we got married. And I had 4 days off, and he had 4 days off from his job, too. So that was our first honeymoon. But then the second honeymoon came in January when we went to Europe. And that was very exciting. Klaus often said he wanted to be sure that I was the one because it had been such a whirlwind courtship. He was only kidding.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to spend the money on Europe if he was going to get rid of me. Klaus with it.
Yeah.
So we planned a trip. It was in the wintertime. It was in January because he wanted to go skiing. And so we went to Davos. Was our first stop. And Davos was really a very sleepy little village in those days. But now, I understand it's very big. They've got all kinds of Davos meetings there, and it's a city now. But then it was not. Then it was charming, just charming. And we stayed at the hotel called the Hotel Flula. That's Lula. And I had never seen comforters before. And we went into the room, and there was this. It was like a snowdrift. This huge white comforter was on the bed, and I jumped on it, and oh my gosh, it was like a cloud. And then when you looked outside, there was all this white snow and the blue, blue sky. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then I took skiing lessons, and Klaus, we had met a couple, can't remember where we met them, but English couple. And I remember the English, I went to take a lesson, and the English girl, this English couple, was there. The English girl was in my class, and her husband was an experienced skier like Klaus. So we became friendly. Those two guys went off together. They skied on their own, and we were in the class. And then there was another guy, single guy from Glencoe, Illinois, and he became part of the group. So for the entire time that we were in Davos, which was a week, we were, after the three of us were taking lessons, we would meet, and the guy would come along. We would meet the husbands and go and have a cup of coffee, and knowing Klaus, have some cake, and we went schlag, and all that stuff. So it was really great. It was great. And then after that, after a week, we went off to Paris, where it was freezing cold, but it was so exciting. I had never been to Europe before.
Yeah.
And even Paris, with freezing weather, I was beside myself.
Yeah.
And we went to Madrid, and we went to the Canary Islands. That's where we went. So that we were gone for 3 weeks.
Wow. So tell me about the Atlantic City honeymoon.
Well, Atlantic City, we had beautiful weather. It was on our actual wedding day. It was pouring. It was miserable. But then when we went to Atlantic City, by Friday, it had cleared up. And we rented bicycles, and we bicycled on the boardwalk for a long time. Walked around. Atlantic City was not very pretty in those days, but we walked around. We didn't gamble or anything like that. And we would have lunch, and we would, don't know if we went to the movie. No, we didn't know. There were no movies. No, and we just hung out. It was November, so we couldn't really go into the water, but the weather was beautiful. It was, sometimes in November you get these beautiful sunny days.
Yeah.
And it was that way. And then we came home. There was nothing. It was a honeymoon. It was lovely. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we came home on Sunday. And then we had rented an apartment in Brooklyn Heights. So we rented that apartment, and that's where we lived for 18 months.
Did Klaus carry you over the threshold?
No. Nothing traditional as that.
Was he a romantic?
Not really.
Yeah. Did that not bother you, or?
No, he was what he was.
Yeah.
I knew what he was because we had gone through everything before we were married.
Yeah.
Telling me the truth about everything.
Yeah.
So no, I knew he was a very hard worker.
Yeah.
Because he would start work he would leave the apartment at 7:30 in the morning and come home at 7:30 at night. And this was in Brooklyn Heights. His office was way downtown New York. He was on the subway for 5 minutes. He would be in the office before 8 o'clock. And then he would be home, certainly by 7:30 he would be home. It was really 7:30 to 7:30.
Yeah.
He was a very hard worker.
And where were you working?
I was working for a time, still working up on 58th and Madison at MCA. But my hours were from 10 to 6. And since my boss, Eleanor Kilgallen, wanted me to become an agent, that would mean a talent agent. That would mean that I would really be coming home so late.
Yeah.
I would have to stay late. I would have to go to see shows, to look for talent on Saturdays and Sundays off Broadway. I just couldn't continue in that job.
Yeah.
So I really was sorry to leave it, but I had to. And I got a really nice going away gift from Eleanor Kilgallen. She gave me some beautiful tent poles, which I had for many years from a really fancy shop on Madison Avenue.
And
then after that, I looked for a job, and I got a job with a company down on William Street called Schlang Brothers, and they were in the real estate business. And I applied for a job as a secretary, and I got that job, and it was no comparison to Goodson Todman or to MCA. It was really dull.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't last there that long. I think that was the place, where there was this coworker called Grace, and Grace was an older woman and very mean, like a mean person. Anyhow, I did become pregnant when I was working there, and I didn't show at all, but she was my coworker, and I told her I was excited I was pregnant. Wouldn't you know, right away, she went into the bosses, and she said, Rhoda's pregnant.
Oh.
And they said, ouch. They fired me. I said, but I'm not showing. They said, we cannot have you here. We cannot have pregnant women here.
Wow.
This is what it was in those days. You could not be pregnant and be in an office. And to tell you the truth, I really didn't care because my husband was doing well, and I didn't like the place anyhow.
Yeah.
And so I left. I collected unemployment because they fired me.
Yeah.
So I collected unemployment. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe today I wouldn't have done it. And then I hung around Brooklyn Heights. I went into the city, walked around the city. I tried to meet Klaus for lunch. It never worked because he was always busy, business. He would hardly go out for lunch. He would have lunch at the desk. And so I never really met him for lunch. One time I did, and he was such a nervous wreck because he had to get back to the office that I said, forget it, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yeah. And then we had little Andrea.
Yeah, but let me ask you, so they fired you because you were pregnant. What was it optics that they were concerned about, or what was their concern?
I think so. That's what I said, but I'm not showing.
Yeah.
I think so. In those days, it was crazy. I don't know why I think it was optics, yeah. They didn't want to have somebody with a big belly in the office. That wasn't what it was all about. And when I think of nowadays, Andrea worked until the day that she had Daniel.
Yeah.
She was going into labor, and she was still working in the office. Yeah.
So what was the time span between getting married and you were pregnant?
I was married in 56, okay? I was married in 56 November, and I had Andrea in April of 58.
Yeah. So not too long, really.
No.
A year and a half, maybe?
Klaus was 9 years older than I am.
Yeah.
He was 31 when he got married.
Right.
And I was 22.
Yeah. All right, let's pause there and just pick up next time with your first child.
Okay.
Okay?